Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 127 of Discourse in Magic. This one is another one with Tyler and I. We're going to talk a little bit about our lives, some views on what?
I didn't know this was just a me and you episode.
Oh, were you expecting someone else to be here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I hate the ones where I have to talk.
Oh, yeah, you will have to talk quite a bit. But
right.
it's about what's going on in our lives, sort of our views on magic, maybe things that came up in the magic sphere or discussion that people are talking about, as well as in this episode to do some of the remaining Q&A questions that came in that we weren't able to squeeze into the other episode. So we've got some more Q&A episodes. We've got some life to talk about. Tyler, what happened in your August? I feel like, we had a Q&A episode, but we didn't really talk about what's been going on. And how's life?
It's good. I haven't been doing too much practical magic. I haven't been doing too much magic performing, but I've been doing a lot of video work and learning a lot about how to edit and storytelling through film and all sorts of stuff. And I'm reading a lot of that and diving into it, listening to podcasts, watching videos, that sort of stuff. And it's its own sort of magic in a way. It's a very similar lens that I get to look through. Just the rules are a little different because I can sort of bend and shape the images to do what I want them to do. And it's kind of cool to think about the movie magic side of things and, expressing stuff through that. Yeah,
totally. And just to add on to the benefits of that, and obviously, that I've been on your chain for so long to be like, do video and do photos for magic because, you do a very good job. So it's good that you're able to put more of the hours in just in general, because as just one of the things to talk about, and maybe this isn't your direction, but one of the things we talk about so much is finding an involvement in magic. And, if you love taking photos and videos of magic, you can be an asset and work very closely with amazing magicians.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. In terms of, this isn't really super magical, but I think it's kind of cool. One of the people that I was originally started, watching some videos and engaging in the whole media production side of thing was Peter McKinnon, who is a magician.
Yeah.
And I learned about him through Chris Ramsey's channel. And for those of you who don't know, Chris Ramsey is a YouTuber, magician, vlogger. Not only does he do magic, but he also does puzzle solves where he just sits down and tries to solve really, really difficult puzzles. And there was one in particular that always sort of stuck out to me that I thought was really cool. To be honest, I don't watch all of them. It's a little bit like solving a puzzle without the reward sometimes, but was one that he actually couldn't solve. And then I got a text from a friend of mine and it said, "Are you at work?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, I'm coming by." And then he's like, "Here's this gift." He's like, "I have a gift for you. Take it." And it was one of the puzzles that Chris Ramsey did, the Excalibur one where you try to free the sword. And he was like, "So I found this guy on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. I watched him solve puzzles for hours." So I was like, "Chris Ramsey?" And he was like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And I was like, "Well, he was on the podcast for an episode. We did a live episode with him."
Magician, yeah.
And he was like blown away by that. But bottom line is my friend, Daniel Bachnick, check him out if you want to. He doesn't have a social media presence, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, he came in and he handed me this puzzle and he said that it was the only one that he saw this guy fail to solve. So he emailed the creator of the puzzle and asked for a solution because he was so curious. So the creator emailed him back what the solution was, but the solution also doubled as blueprints. So because Daniel does woodworking, he built me a puzzle.
No way.
And then just dropped it off for me randomly at work. So now for the past 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks, I've yet to solve it. And I spend at least 20 minutes every day just sitting down with the puzzle. And I can't, I've made moves.
It's amazing that he built it.
Yeah, I know. And it's amazing that he built it and it's functional. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah, my lord.
I've actually spent that much time with it, it's and it looks beautiful. So big thank you to Daniel. I know he's not listening, but the love is out there somewhere in the ether.
There's so much amazing to that. Just another thing to reflect on that. I know I always love just pulling nuggets from things, but on my trip, I spent some time with some very successful people, not in the magic sphere. And I was talking to one of them and he kept telling me I was asking him about his childhood and his teen years and stuff. And he was telling me that every time he would read a book and he would find like a passage or an idea that he didn't agree with or didn't understand, he would email the author. And he said 95% of the authors responded. And I wasn't even surprised by that because I know how easy it is with the podcast. You know, we reach out to people. Maybe it's a little bit higher. Maybe it's like 80% or 90% of people respond, right? But there's a high response rate. And I know that in terms of people who have reached out to us and told us that they made friends with someone because they listened to the episode, I haven't heard anybody saying that they tried to reach out and it didn't work. So that was very cool of him to take that upon himself, and very cool that you sort of have this piece of the internet, you know, a viral moment now in your hands with a beautiful story that connects it with your friend. And
I was actually having that conversation with a friend of mine probably like a week or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. But I hadn't seen him since first year university, so it's been a while. And he looks like he's been, like, sorry to throw you under the bus, I know you're not listening too, so it doesn't matter. But he looks like he's been studying for his like master's or his PhD. Like, he just looks stressed out to the core, like he's just been cramming information in his brain. So I was like, so what are you been up to? Clearly something's going on. And he's like, oh, I've been studying analytics and like statistics, and I'm just learning how to like track data. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, what do you want to do with it? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's fine. How long is the program? Like, do they have career things or whatever? He's like, oh, no, I'm not in school. I'm just learning how to do that. And he's literally just every day for close to 10 hours a day studying something that he loves for the sake of doing that, because he knows that going to school and committing that time is actually going to hold him back with what he wants to do, because now when he has a question, he's emailing the authors of books and getting answers. And like, he doesn't have to go to a class every day. He can just do what he'll work up until he can't work by himself. And then he gets that little bit of help he needs, and then he's progressing forward. And like, I don't know what he's going to do with it, but I think he's going to kill it if he just becomes a genius at something on his own time.
I just shared it on, I think, Facebook, but Apple and Google just announced that you no longer need degrees to work there. And I think that's huge. And I'm just so excited that of the boom of people moving away from universities, because I love university. It was a great experience. I would do it again. But I know that there's unlimited information on the internet, and people's ability to consume that is limited only by how amazing the creators and teachers are online. And people are able to learn how to do incredible things because of things like Khan Academy.
Yeah, I forgot about Khan Academy entirely.
Yeah, and it was just this guy who made YouTube videos that taught math and science and different things like that. And he was such a great teacher that people would learn. He was people's after school tutor. And I learned from a guy, a math YouTuber that I'm sure you did also. It's like
Patrick JMT, just math tutor.
Patrick JMT, right? Yeah. Exactly. So he was teaching math. So, you know, we have our own teachers online that we learn from, and the ability of somebody to learn off of the internet is only limited by the quality of the teacher and how good their knowledge is and how entertaining they are, and keeping someone's interest.
Yeah.
Because we've learned it, it takes one bad teacher to make someone hate a subject, and it takes one good teacher to make someone grow obsessed with a subject for eternity, right? We've run the numbers, right?
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again.
Exactly. So I agree with you. I'm super excited about that. I don't remember what the relevance is to magic.
No, but you know what? This is our me and you episode. It's fun.
Screw it. Yeah, but also, I'll just tie some relevance to what you were talking about before, is that having skill sets is important, whether or not you went to school for them. That's not a limitation anymore. You could get 500,000 or 100,000 or 50,000 people watching your videos, and now all of a sudden that's way better than a portfolio, and it says you went to such and such a school.
Exactly.
Right?
But let's get back to the magic. You've been doing a lot more magic wise than I have in August, so why don't you catch everybody up? Because
yeah, I did a whole bunch of fun stuff. I mean, it was the end of my summer tour, so I was up at a few different camps for a few days. One which was notable was I was up at Camp White Pine, which was the camp that used to be where we hosted Sorcerer Safari, which was the magic camp where like we met and everyone met. So I spent like a hilarious chunk of that day. I was up there for just one day. I stayed there the night and then I left the next morning, like taking photos of stuff because I had been up at that camp for like, I don't know, 7 summers or 6 summers, 8 summers, something like that, right? So it was just very fun to be up there, which I haven't been up there in quite a few years because the very last summer of Sorcerer Safari was at a different camp.
Right.
So it had just been a few years since I was there. So that was a fun little highlight for me. I went to a few other random camps and then I went to LA. And I guess I'll talk a little bit more about what the secret project was, which is basically there's a young guy who's not a magician, but learning to be a magician who I was working with, who I went down there and did some private shows for in order to potentially have a unique type of show. So the unique thing is that it's a private 20-person close-up show. And it's the close-up show that I do at my summer tour with a few other magical twists and more impossible things and things that I'm able to do with adults and money. And so there's a lot more levels to it, but that's the basic idea. So it's just an intimate 20-person show. We were able to do 3 of them. They were very fun. I did them at this like beautiful, beautiful house in a backyard. It was just amazing. And then I hung out with some other amazing people in LA, people in magic, outside of magic. And then I went to the Magic Castle. So I'll talk a little bit about the Magic Castle and a few different things. So first, there's a few different people that I want to thank and shout out. One of them who I remember for sure, who I was able to go out for coffee with. Actually, both of them, I think, name were Greg. But one was Greg Van Holzbeck, who was the guy who is part of the Magic Castle, got me invites for me and my friends, and like biggest shout out in the world to him. We like hung out inside the castle. We went to see Laura London's show together. I had a blast meeting him and talking magic and talking about his show. That was super, super cool. And then a shout out to another fan who also goes by the name Greg. I just met all the Gregs. This time Greg Gelb, who I also spent time with him and his wife. Actually, and the other Greg, I spent time with him and his wife, which was very nice. But this Greg as well, we hung out at the Magic Castle. A little bit later, we went to John Armstrong's show. We went to Rob Zabrecki's show together. And then the next day, we went for coffee and dropped by the Magic Apple store. So just shout out to those people because that was a specific highlight. And I know that there was a few people that messaged me that I was unable to meet up with because it was tight. So that shout out to those people. But the Magic Castle, it's sort of hard for me to put in perspective. I guess ask me something about the Magic Castle.
What's it like going in? Like, what's the first experience you have?
So you walk in and you're at the front door. You take some photos. Then they like take your name and make sure that you're on the list. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the front and you have to like whisper "Open Sesame" or whatever to an owl. And then the bookcase moves. And I know that sounds like a figment of a dream, but it's not. But really, you know, the highlight of this place was that it was so massive and there was so much magic in so many different corners of it. And I bumped into so many people. I bumped into Joshua J. I bumped into Franco Pasquale. I bumped into Laura London. It was just like insanity. It's a reason to live in LA, you know, like it might be as a whole a reason to live in LA. Maybe not for me right now in my life. It seems a little bit silly, but I was like, this place is unmatched. And the amount of magic going on here is unmatched. So that was unreal. Yeah. And just the vibe in the Magic Castle. Like, what an amazing environment to perform in. Just to do another reflection, we did at the very end of August, our 3rd sold out Art of Magic show, which is crazy now that we've done 3 sold out Art of Magic shows. Like, I mean, it's not that different than when we did Tricks and Six, but just they're selling out and it's a cool concept and the nights are beautiful. But as soon as anybody came out on stage, the audience was just losing their mind laughing. Losing their mind. So everybody did an amazing job. And I'm thinking to myself, does this have to do with the clout of the show and people knowing and hearing about the show and that it's a good show and all this different stuff, that they come in with these amazing expectations? Because the same thing is true about the castle. Like, not that you don't have to be good, but these people are dressing up and waiting in lines to go and see world famous magicians. Like, they're just primed to laugh at every joke and wow at every moment, you know? So the idea of performing that environment, not only for the historical sense, but also just for the, like, what a amazing audience.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, we've spoken to about in the past of, like, when the audience is getting dressed up to come see you, it's a different kind of show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Comparing what I would do there versus what I do at Dave & Buster's, where I like open and I have to basically convert people from why am I sitting here to watch a magic show instead of playing games, all the way to I am very excited for the upcoming, 50 or 40 minutes remaining. Like, that is what I have to do. So it takes me literally all 15 minutes to win people over. They'll be like laughing on every beat, right? And then I'm like, okay, I'm done opening. See you later. Here's Ben or here's Dave, right? So versus this, where you go, you're like, hi, I'm Jonah. And they're like, ha, yeah, so funny. So thinking about that and how to craft that more was something interesting that I pulled from the Magic Castle.
Cool. What do you think made this round of Art of Magic so successful?
Something really interesting is when I asked people at the event how they heard about it. Aside from the people that were friends with the performers, most of the people said, oh, we looked up a magic show to see in Toronto to go as a date or as a group of 4 or something, or as a family or whatever. And those people found us, which is amazing because that's what we're trying to do. But it also means that none of our intentional marketing has been in the sense of no one was like, oh, I saw your post, or oh, I saw the Facebook ad, or oh, I saw. So that stuff's not happening. But people are finding us because they want to see an amazing magic show in Toronto. And there's also word of mouth. People heard about the previous show. They said, a friend told me about this. And there's a lot of people that, there's people in the magic community that instead of just coming out to see the magic open mic night, newest trick in the book, and be like, oh, it's just me, I left my wife at home. They're like, wife, come, cousins, come, family, come. These are some amazing right? So we're just able to make it distinct. But I am learning alongside everybody else what it takes to get people to come to a show. We've had ups and downs with the Tricks in the Six shows. We've had ups and downs with the newest trick in the book shows. We've had ups and downs with the International Mystery Series, where we bring in someone like Garrett Thomas or Caleb Wiles or whatever. We've had struggles with those, and we've had struggles with Art of Magic, but things just look like they're on the up and up. And I'm just trying to learn how and why and what we should be doing more of. But that's all part of the fun of growing. And now we're doing another one. And again, part of the fun of this as well is being able to put on shows with magicians that I love. So we get to headline Keith Brown, which is super exciting. The last one headlined Mark Correa. And Lee Beaton is going to be opening the next show, and Ben and I are going to be performing as well and doing some fun stuff. So it's just very exciting. I'm happy about it. It's a growing show, and it's an intimate audience of 50 people. So it just feels like everyone's all together, and it's like, harumph, so it's very good. Any other thoughts before we start looking back at some of the questions that we were unable to reach for the Q&A?
No, let's move on. I like the questions. The questions are good.
Well, I'm going to try to do more of people sending us questions for our You and I episodes, because that's pretty cool. And it just gives us more content than us talking about whatever we feel about magic. Although that being said, I just sent out an email about magic, just mentioning something, which is something that's been on my mind, on the tip of my tongue. And I always feel like when I'm thinking of something, the best thing to do is to write it down. And I figured I would just send it off to you guys. And I'm going to do more of that, communicating over email, like I said before. So if you're interested, go sign up. If you're not interested, Hakuna Matata, I still love you. So here was the thing that I sent out. I just said that there's 3 different types of ways to do a trick. You can, number 1, perform somebody else's trick entirely, their own method, their own performance, basically. Number 2, you can do your version of their trick. So it can have your own original scripting, your own presentation idea, maybe minor tweaks in methods or minor tweaks in aesthetic or things like that. And then the third way is that you can come up with something totally original and unique, right? Like things that have never been seen before, something that is totally unique and has never been done. Original scripting, but original presentation. The method you come up with is one that you came up with in order to do this. It doesn't need to be an original method, but it needs to be like devised or discovered to accomplish your goal. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
So those are the three. There's someone else's trick, there's your version of someone else's trick, and then there is a totally original thing. And my thought is that a lot of this conversation that goes on about creativity and originality is trying to move people immediately to that third box. And my belief is that people should focus on moving from box number 1 to box number 2. So moving from doing someone else's trick to making the trick your own are the skills that you need to make a number 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, I just think that people should, instead of focusing on starting being like, what can I do that's crazy and new and original? What happens with that is you get all these people bitching because they're like, just because you come up with something original doesn't mean that it's good. And they're right. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, coming up with something randomly original isn't necessarily good. A better idea is to take a pre-existing trick or idea or premise or thought and tweak it. And in due time, with your tweaks and the tweaks that come from performing it and things like that, it will grow into something original.
Yeah, I think one of the focuses of magic should be problem solving. And that could be either like in the premise of a trick or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, there has to be a reason for you to do what you're doing, right? Usually problem solving is a good one, but I'm not talking about problem solving in terms of premise or anything like that. I mean, the way to innovate in magic is not to create a new set of problems and solve them. It's to solve pre-existing problems, right? So like,
I would agree.
So like, so you want to do McDonald's Aces, but you need regular cards. Okay, that's a problem for you to solve. It doesn't matter that you didn't come up with the routine. You know what I mean? Like, you are improving, at least for you specifically, not improving objectively, but for your own subjective needs, you're improving something that already exists. More likely than not, the community will thank you for that because they're going to have similar problems to you. We all do the same thing, right?
Totally. I have dozens of examples of even in just one trick of things I've learned that I have to do the trick differently or in a different place in the show or something like that because of the way that it is, right? And you uncover problems by doing it and thinking about it and seeing it and scripting it and, just living in the trick. You discover problems and then you have to figure out a way to problem solve it. And in that journey, in that bumping into an edge, fix it your own way, bump, fix, try to draw more connections to you and your show and yourself and what you like and who you are. That process and that journey is the one that I think we should all be on, right? It is the one that I think we should all be playing with. So my question to you right now is, and this was the question that I sent into the email, but I'd love to know what you think. My question to you is, what trick right now do you have that's more like a number 1 that you would love to be more like a number 2?
It's a trick I actually just want to stop doing, not necessarily something that I want to tweak, but I know it's something that I'm going to continue to do because when I get anxious, it's a fallback trick for me. And that is Casino Royale with Cheese by Chris Mayhew. Not that I'm not shitting on the trick. It's just it doesn't fit into place with the rest of my magic right now. And it's been something that I've been saying, okay, you're not going to do the queens this time. And then I do the queens. But I've never once done any other presentation other than fast queens and slow queens.
Right.
So I'd like to, if I'm going to continue to do it, I'd like to make that change.
I love that. That's really good. I have a ton, but one that's really on the tip of my repertoire that hasn't been really placed in my working repertoire just because it hasn't really been converted from a 1 to a 2 is imagination coins. And basically that's the only coin trick that I do. And I really love it. And I've just been spending the last 8 months or something or 6 months practicing the moves. And I've basically been just saying his script, which is not great, but it allows me to get the timing down and seeing where I need to look and when and just executing them exactly as he says. which is what people advise, right? They're like, learn directly from the masters. And then from there, so now I'm ready to make it something else. It's an amazing trick. So now I'm ready to blend it into me and figure out like what parts of me relate to this and really turn it into a trick that I can perform for people that will be memorable because I make it such. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So really add something different. So for me, that's a trick that's going to be that I really want to turn into a number 2. But I have a few. And then I have tricks that I'm like, even though I just spoke against it, there are tricks that are like percolating to be number 3s. All I know, though, is every time I try to go straight for a number 3, it ends up sucking. And I end up doing it dozens and dozens of times, that newest trick, trying to make it good. But it just sucks.
Either it sucks forever or it turns out you had to be doing it in a way that someone else already does a similar thing for it to be good. So you should have just started there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it often just sucks. So I'm going to keep working on turning number 1s to number 2s. Okay, so let's dive in and talk some questions because we have a bunch that we didn't get to. So this one is from, and sorry if we overlap it all for the other questions. I think we're starting fresh, but who knows? So this one is Christopher Gartner, who said, if you could have dinner with any magician from the past, who would it be?
Though we did sort of go over this in the last episode, I'm going to change my answer from Jesus to it's technically 2 people, but I think they come as a duo. So I'm going to pick the 2 magicians from Prince of Egypt, those cartoon guys that work for the Pharaoh, because I think, though I've answered the question many times, I think that was my actual first experience learning what a magician was. Though they're not real and they're cartoons, I believed that, in ancient Egypt, there was people that could do all these crazy things like turn sticks into snakes. And then not only in the movie is it sort of explained that they're frauds, but my dad really explained at that point what a magician was. And I was like, that's really cool. I want to do that.
Yeah. So also like that is from the Bible.
Yes, I know.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to check, right? Because you were like, oh, that someone in a movie could turn us. And I'm like,
no. I'm aware that it's a religious movie.
Okay, cool.
I am aware of that. But I'm not interested in the biblical characters. I'm interested in the Disney characters. You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
I didn't read the Bible when I was 3.
Yeah, okay. That is a good person. And it's also particularly illuminating to the idea that you could do something once. Doing one trick once, one moment is enough to inspire magic or awaken magic, or so exactly. All he did was really turn a stick into a snake, and now you're like, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
For me, I don't know which magician from the past would I sit with? I'd be very interested to sit with Marlowe. I'd be very, very interested. And I would be very, very interested to sit with Ascanio, because I've been reading his material and he's somebody who I would very much love to sit with and learn from.
Can we say Erdnase, or is that not fair?
Yeah, we can. I mean, for me, I don't know that
I'd get a lot of value out of it, but I could at least answer that question for myself. You know what I mean? Yeah,
like I would like information, but I wouldn't I would want information. I would want experiences, only because it's like a historical and a personal, as somebody who likes problem solving and knowing the ends of things, not knowing who this guy is or what he really did, or who, like I would love to know, but it's not, it doesn't keep me up at night. But it is very interesting, and I don't think it's bad for somebody to want that, and for that to even be one of the top few answers by like Vernon and by, things like that. Okay, the next question from Bill, and he says, who was performing at the castle when you were there? Okay, so so the people that I obviously remember that I saw at the castle that I know and that we know and that either were or will be coming on the podcast are Laura London, who when I said hi afterwards, she was like, oh, I do listen to your podcast. I was like, that's amazing. I was about to ask you to come on. So she'll hopefully be coming on soon. I saw Joshua J there and introduced myself just so he could see my face. Yeah. I saw Rob Zabrecki perform. I saw Nick Paul, who runs the Two Magicians, One Mic. I saw him. I saw John Armstrong. So the people that I didn't see that were also there were Brian Markinson, Boris Wilde, Chris Capchart. I saw Carl Hine as well at the bar, who was awesome. Those were the people that I got a chance to see. Honestly, the reason why I don't remember so much is because it was one of the first times that I did a trip where I did a lot of magic and I visited a lot of magicians, but the point of the trip wasn't magic, and the people I was with for the most of the time weren't magicians. Right. So it reflected in my mind more like a gig and performing and just walking around and being like me than it did being like magic me. I hope that doesn't sound weird. I mean, I'm not different people, but I'm just like, as a magician, I'm always thinking talking magic and whatever. And with this, I limited the amount of nerddom I went into and the amount of, so I just quickly, if there was a magician, I just quickly walked up, I said hi. And then I said, bye, right? Because I had to go. So, okay. The next question from Malik. It says, Dear Jonah, my question, how to start getting gigs? Okay, so Malik, I don't know where you live in the world, so it may be more or less difficult depending on where you are in the world to book gigs, but I'll tell you, find some type of gigs that you want, go do them for free, get photos and videos, and then call and email those types of people forever and send them the photos and videos and testimonials and be like, look, other people like me. You might too. And you book some gigs. And then word of mouth, get some business cards, get a website. There you go. Okay, next from Zach Stevens. And he says, I think my question would be, how does a magician get themselves out there to a bigger audience where they can do stage performances or get gigs? So I guess, one of these things, or at least what I'm taking from it, is how does one get to perform on stage? Close up is one thing. How do I get to perform more on stage? And my answer is find some stages that you can perform on, get better, get photos, videos, and testimonials, and then send emails and make phone calls to potential stages that might pay you to do that. There you go. I gave you all the instructions through hiccups. Here is the question from Tyler. Been performing since 2003 and love it, but found this summer to be crazy busy, like 4 to 5 shows every weekend. Good to hear. And 2 to 3 shows during the week. Even better. I added that. Good to hear. And even better. Not a bad problem to have, but I found recently that after booking a show, I regret it instantly. And I'm sure it shows in my performances, just feel run down. I know I could say no or take less gigs for sure. I have a full-time job as well, and I'm sure that doesn't help. So how do I keep this a joy and not a job? What an amazing question. I have a few different answers for you. Number one, to keep this a joy, you have to enjoy it. You have to think about what part of magic put you here. And if the part that you enjoy is doing new magic, then all of this performing opportunity gives you a chance to try new magic out for people. If the part you enjoy about magic is getting people to laugh and enjoying it, then you get to be on those stages. Think about what you enjoy. And try to maximize that. And if that ends up meaning that you're not doing gigs because the thing that you really enjoy about magic is sitting in a basement and doing tricks, well then Hakuna Matata, you just learned something. It didn't take you that long to learn it. And now you know that you don't want to be a performer. Maybe you want to be a creator. Maybe you want to help. Maybe you want to think about magic, whatever. But if you think that you really do want to perform and this is something that you actually do want to do, then number one, find a way to enjoy it. Number two, I'll tell you, if you're doing 4 to 5 shows every weekend and 2 to 3 shows during the week, so 7 shows a week, I would tell you that it's probably in the summer, which means if there's 2 months of the summer and you're doing 7 shows a week, and what is there, 4? So that's 8 weeks. So that's 7 by 8. What is that, 42? So you did 40 plus shows. No, that has to be more than that. It has to be 48. Yeah. So you did nearly 50 shows in the summer. And if that's the case, then you should up your price. You should probably double it. Like, you are doing so many shows, and it probably means that you're doing very low dollar value shows. So if you're not enjoying it, it probably means that people are hiring you to be their glorified babysitter while they go and doing something else. And you're like sitting there with 6 kids and it's not really a match. Like sometimes when you charge more, you get better gigs and more enjoyable gigs. So I don't know much about who you are, Tyler, or what you like or what you want to do or what your goals are. So my 2 thoughts are, number one, look at what those goals are and what you want to do and who you are and maybe why you're not enjoying this and what part of magic you enjoy. And the other part of me is, if you want to do more of this, you can be more selective about the gigs you take and take only better gigs by basically doubling your fee right now. Because if you're doing 7 a week, then you're doing a ton. So there you go. That's my advice for you, Tyler. Tyler, do you have any advice for Tyler?
I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying he should stop, but say no to one of those gigs and take that day, or like legitimately spend a day and try not to think about magic and think about the other things in your life and what other interests you have. And if you find that you're being pulled towards more magical things, pursue that, or pursue other things tangential to magic that are going to help build. Like, okay, say you love magic, but you're tired of doing the type of learning that you've been doing, or the type of performing that you've been doing. Try doing a completely different show. Go do stand-up. Go do something else that will be a new, exciting experience, but will also teach you things relevant to the primary art that you want to pursue, which is magic.
I love that. And I'll say a few more things. Number one, if you're getting that many people calling you for gigs, then just find a magician and take 20 or 30% off the top. That's what managers take, even more, right? Agents take even more sometimes. And then now you just have free money and you don't have to do the gig. So if you really don't want it, then you have free money to give away. That's number one. And number two is I'll just tell you a really quick story, which was when I started to perform a lot with Ben at Dave & Buster's. So it was like 4 times a weekend. I was going up there, I was bombing a lot. And one of the times when I went up there, I looked at him and I was like, do you enjoy this? Like, do you like going up on that stage and doing magic? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you will. Right. And then I did. Right. And now it whips me up there, like it whipped me up doing close-up magic. Right. So when I was still uncomfortable doing stage magic, the audience sort of liked it, but I didn't feel very enthralled. I didn't feel whipped up the way that I did doing close-up magic. Now I'm growing to have that more and more. Now I'm getting whipped up doing stage magic with the audience. So anyways, play with that. Okay, next question comes from Matt Hebert, who we know who that is. I believe he's the guy who sent us the package with just fun stuff in it, with the cool coins and some fun stuff. And he said, "Hi, Jonah. I've been following your stories from Instagram and your trip looked dope." I guess he's talking about to LA. So follow me up at Jonah Babbitt's Magic on Instagram. What up? Okay. That's fantastic that you were able to have that experience this summer, especially after working so hard on all magic things this past year. Thank you. I love hard work about magic. Okay. Thanks for all the compliments. If I had a question about magic, it is this. As a magician, what about magic pushes you forward to continue practicing, performing, thinking about, and loving the art? I know the answer for me has changed over the years, and I'm curious to know what motivates other people and what about magic they love so much. Tyler, do you have an answer?
I don't really know, I guess. I don't know why I do anything. You really... Dopamine? Like it makes me feel good to think in that space. Like, we've got these little biological computers that like to do different tasks, and I happen to like thinking about magic, and it comes and goes. Like, there's not really, I don't start disliking magic and go, oh, but you know what? The feeling of wonder that I get to give, I have to keep doing it. That doesn't happen to me. I don't ever tell myself this is something I have to do, because I don't do it full time, right? So I always do the shows that I want to do and perform the gigs that I want to perform and study the things that I want to study. Like, I think the satisfaction for me comes from, like I said earlier, the problem solving mentality, and it's its own sort of puzzle I get to give myself and solve for myself. And then I like showing that to people, and I don't get to show them my side of it, but my side of it, like the problem that I'm trying to solve, is what I want them to see, what show I want them to get, essentially. So I do get to sort of get the satisfaction when I see it in action being used.
Totally. I have 2 answers. The first is like, it is funny to sort of ask, like, what keeps you doing your hobby? You're like, well, I
the children really,
doing it, right? No, but like, and the other thing is like, again, sort of what we said to the other person, which is, if you don't like it, stop doing it. In the story of my magic, of me doing magic, there was years in my childhood that I didn't really do it anymore. right? Like there was times where I just didn't really do much magic anymore. Maybe it was like a 6-month window. It happened once. Then again, it happened for like a 8 or 10 month window. There was times where I would carry around cards to school, but I wouldn't do magic for anybody and I wouldn't learn magic. So I would just have an extra thing in my pocket for like months, months and months, years maybe, right? So like the relationship with doing magic changes over time. So my first answer is it's a funny question to say what keeps you loving your hobby, because if you don't love doing it, start knitting, right? But the other thing I'll say is it's always different. It is always different. And it's like what you said in the message. You said it changes for you and it changes for me too, you know? Sometimes my love for magic is my love for its ability to help me do fun things with new people that I meet. I just have like cool experiences in my pocket. Sometimes my thought for magic is this idea that I can entertain people on a stage as big as possible, you know, with cameras and with things like this. If I'm on a stage, you can put unlimited people in the audience. So how amazing can I make that act? How funny and wowing and thought-provoking and all this different stuff can I make my act? Or what amazing moments do I want to have on stage with people? Or, you know, right now I'm reconnecting with what sleights am I able to pull off because of certain angles that I'm able to take advantage of? And how can I slowly integrate that more into the magic that I do instead of more simple sleights that allow me to be safe, right? So there's always different things that motivate my excitement in magic. And but that's because I love it and it's my hobby and it's what I do. You know, how can I use magic to make more money, right? How can I perform at bigger and better and different events? How can I run my own magic events? You know, so all those questions and all those things are what get me excited about magic. And I truly feel that whatever you do in this world, the more you focus on it, the more you get excited about it and interested, and the more your interest grows and the more you grow deeper in that subject. So if you knit all the time, then you'll think about all the amazing things that your knitting can do. And if you do magic all the time, you can think about all the amazing things that you love about magic and what magic can do and things like that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. Okay,
next question from Satch. Says, I'm a beginner. What moves would you recommend a beginner start on? I reject the question.
Yeah,
here's my answer. There are moves that you should learn to do, but the same way that when someone is learning how to play the guitar, what I would recommend to them is not to learn 20 chords. Or even 20 notes. I would recommend finding a super easy song and letting them jam and letting them play and enjoy the playing. So what I would say is the first few things I would learn is find some easy tricks that require nearly no moves. Then from there, go on to learning some moves and go to your local magic store, go to the free section on any of these websites, any of these magic websites, or, you know, so many people have great beginner stuff. I mean, Alex Pandrea has good stuff. Jay Sankey has good stuff. That's in terms of videos. In terms of books, you literally cannot go wrong by buying the first Card College. And it's a real good test because if you love it, you'll keep buying them and you'll literally be a fantastic card magician. If you don't like it, then you will stop and you will own Card College, which is a great Card College 1, which is a great beginner book in card magic. I don't know. That's my advice for card magic. Tyler, what about you?
I mean, I guess I'll follow the same thing. Like, I like your answer way more than what I was going to say. I was, when you were like, if someone's trying to learn guitar, I was like, G chord, C chord, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what was going in my head. But you're like, learn a song. And I was like, yeah, that's such, obviously.
Well, it's true, because otherwise then you fall out of love with guitar. And
exactly. And on top of that, like, you need to be able to see the end result. And it doesn't matter if you have a flawless double lift if you don't know why you're going to do it, right?
Agreed.
So I guess I'm going to just regurgitate Jonah's answer. If you want specific moves, like we're not really a method podcast, but I don't know, I guess a double lift, any sort of control, any sort of force, you can do a lot of amazing magic and really morph yourself. And
totally a call.
Yeah.
Like those are some award-winning moves.
Yeah.
You can make a career on like 5 or 6 of those moves. So,
yeah. So,
okay. The next question comes from Richard Russeth. And he said, hi, Jonah. Why is there so little magic in magic today? It seems we've put the harsh floodlights of social media on each and every trick, and it seems geared magician to magician, and we forget our audience. They don't care about method. They care about the setup, the story, and the backstory and the reveal. The magic, in other words. But so many magicians today seem to be focused on getting to the end of the trick. The denouncement seems to be everything, which makes for boring magic, I think. What do you think? So he's saying that whether the social media evolution has caused this, or whether they're just concurrently, the idea that magicians are doing tricks and just rushing to the end and the Shazam and the punchline and the boom, and nobody is enjoying the richness of the magic, which is the story and the background and everything that goes into it, and the magician, the character, and the scripting and the intense moments and everything like that. Tyler, what do you think?
I don't see why. Okay, yeah, sure, maybe, but I also don't see why that's a problem for you. And the reason why I say I don't see why that's a problem for you is because if that's true, and it's no bueno, all the magicians you're seeing aren't as good as what you think they should be, then you're just better than everyone. Like, why is that a huge problem? That's like,
yeah, I always find it funny when people are like yelling from the rooftops about other magicians and what.
Yeah, and like, sure, I get it. There's not many magicians, so some people might say I hate magic, and you're like, oh no, that sucks. You just hate the magician you saw. But like, I don't get mad when someone's like, oh, I don't like pizza, and you're like, well, have you ever had Italian pizza, like real pizza, or like, you know what I mean? It's I don't know. I hate country music. There's country songs I'll listen to, but as a blanket statement, country's not for me. That's fine. It's just fine.
But any thoughts on, so like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that like it's happening? Do you have a salute? Like, what's your reflection on this?
Yeah, sure. I guess there are more people forgetting about the important sides of magic. Maybe it has to do with social media, but I think it's just a change, like a new type of magic has been created, one that doesn't rely heavily on character. Like if I'm shooting a video and you're just watching it for the visual element, it's just a visual thing. That's totally fine. And I think that, you're probably just seeing a lot more magicians. Like they saw a specific kind of content which made them pursue magic. So they're going to create the same kind of content that drew them in.
Totally.
So yeah, those numbers are going to grow way faster because not too many 14-year-olds want to sit down with a bunch of 50-year-old men and read books all day.
There is such a richness in the diversity of magic that is both happening around the world, mainstream, not mainstream. You have in one year Oz Perlman doing mentalism on America's Got Talent, making it super far, doing like, I don't want to say standard mentalism, but, sort of a young, dapper looking gentleman reading minds with like jelly beans and drinks and dice and maybe I'm misremembering stuff, but you know what I mean? Like just like a good mentalism show. And then the next year, this year, you have Shin Lim doing silent card magic with smoke. Right? Simultaneously, someone could be watching that. They could also be watching Chris Ramsey, this like cool looking, Supreme wearing, cool dude who's like unlocking puzzles and doing magic tricks and chatting with cool women. And at the same time, they could be watching Penn and Teller fool us and seeing Kayla Drescher do a trick with ripping paper in hearts, or they could see Nick Walter there. So what's happening is there's such a richness in magic right now that people are carving out their own versions of what magic is to them and what they want magic to be. So I would say it'll be impossible for me to prescribe a solution to the world to not be like that. Whether or not it's right or wrong, I don't know. But the question comes down to each individual person, what they're trying to do. Like, what does the magic mean to you? And what is the goal of the magic to you? Derek Delgadio doesn't suffer from having magic being all quick pace and there being no magic. Mm-hmm. He did a 75-minute show and there was 6 tricks. Right. So, and he moved slowly, right? He didn't talk very quickly. There was no Shazam. He moved slowly. He talked slowly. He didn't struggle to hold attention, right? That wasn't a problem that he dealt with. So it depends on you and crafting your experience. I don't really have much of a hate on for the magicians. The only thing I would want to do is help them. So I would say, I don't know, slow it down. If you want to find a moment, sort of search for the magic moment. It's a good question because I think it might be going on. And if someone's listening to this and they feel that their magic is they're too focused on the end and they're not focused on the experience, I would say just slow down and really try to enjoy the moments, like the tension and the laughs and different things like that. Because those are the moments that I enjoy. The moments of magic, the moments we turn out when someone's like, no way, like getting someone to say the beginning half of a joke or all this different stuff. That's the richness. That's what keeps me sort of in it and stretching out those amazing moments. Okay, the next question comes from Jody M., who I think I've spoken with before. And he said, I spent some time thinking about this and I think I may have something. So I guess he didn't have a question before and now he does. The fans. Interview the fans, listeners, average Joe. What have they learned about the podcast? What has inspired them? What did they fail at? What did they destroy/own? You could interview 10 or 30 and easily have one show about the average dude. So I'll say a few things. First of all, it's not a terrible idea. We did that actually early on. We did a contest and we interviewed James Harrison, who's just like a regular magician. I don't know, but he's very good. But we did that episode very early on. We could potentially do it again. Interviewing 10 people is a nightmare.
Yeah, no. What's the most we've done? We've done 3 guests and it's hard.
3 different recordings. That was a nightmare. So interviewing 10 is a nightmare. But I will say this. If you think that you have something interesting to say and you're a listener to this podcast and either you've asked me to be on and I've said no, or you just wanted to be on and you're like, maybe should I ask them? And you think I would probably say no. Here's what I will tell you. If you write a blog post, as long as it's not stupid, I will post it, right? As long as it's not profanity, I'll post it under your name and we could link to you and your stuff and people could see you and hear about you. And you can attach a video and you can make the blog post as robust as you like. And we'll talk a little bit about it. I'll give you some advice. So if you want to do that, send me an email, discourse@discourseofmagic. I'm not against having people on to talk about it. We will do it. We will do it more. We'll have people on whose maybe relationship to the podcast is that they're a listener and maybe success stories. I don't know if that's a weird way to put it. We will do that a little bit. But in terms of the extent of having 10 listeners or average Joes on the podcast, probably won't do that. But thank you. And thank you for the great question. Okay, this question comes from James Allen, who always asks brilliant questions and are pretty in-depth. So here goes. He says, does the magic community, intentionally or unintentionally, shame people who don't do magic with the goal of getting paid and or getting Instagram followers? Do we have a way of telling what good magic is that doesn't measure in dollars and downloads and followers? And then he said, discuss/discourse. So, Tyler, what do you think?
Yes and no. There's people that are shaming people for that. Yes. I don't think that it's like necessarily a rampant problem in the magic community.
Or rather, sorry, just to put a thing on it, not necessarily shame, but maybe judging them, prejudging them based on their lack of those things.
I don't know. I think that there are going to be people that do that and there's going to be people that don't do that. It's like there's been plenty of times where I've seen a magic trick and been like, well, that was garbage. How does so-and-so have 14,000 followers for doing garbage? Right? I'm still aware that the magic's garbage. And vice versa. Sometimes I'm like, that was the most incredible magic I've ever seen. How does this person only have 14 followers? Right?
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that the number of followers or the amount of money you make just automatically makes people think you're a successful, amazing magician. Chris Angel's rolling in it and he sucks. Everyone thinks he sucks. We know he's bad. Right? I mean, I've heard actually mixed things. I've heard good things about him recently, but like, I guess they honestly didn't like him because he was successful.
Probably.
Like, they didn't want that to be what people think of when they see magic, because they were trying to do old classics, and they're like, oh my God, you do magic? And then you did a cups and balls routine, and they're like, that's like Chris Angel, but bad and old and weird. Right. And like nobody liked that.
And he put a signed quarter in a soda can, and they were like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Do we judge people for it?
Or do we have a way of telling what good magic is that isn't measured in those things, which was his follow-up question.
Oh, yeah. I think it's just a personal experience. Like, the magic community in itself, like, every time I see Caleb Wilds do something, I'm like, wow, that was really, impressive and good and beautiful in its own sort of like light that is my lens. Not beautiful in terms of it being a unique piece. I just mean like my perspective of what I'm watching is right. Like, this is fooling on these levels for these reasons, and I like it and appreciate it. But like, when you say the name Caleb Wilds, people don't go like, yes, people know him,
but he doesn't have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Exactly. Right? It's not like when you say David Copperfield and like the non-magicians turn their heads, right? So
yeah, I mean, I have two thoughts. So I'll address first the thought on does the magic community intentionally or unintentionally shame people who don't do magic with the goal of getting paid or getting Instagram followers. So my first thought is, I don't know if it is a shame. I don't know if they shame people, but I do definitely think that there's an unwritten or an undiscussed dichotomy between those things. And I think what it may stem from is the incorrect belief that somebody who does something as a profession puts more time in it than somebody who does it as a hobby. And not only do I think it's incorrect, but it might even be the opposite. But regardless, the belief that somebody does it as a profession means that they have to be more, there's things they have to be more of. Like we were discussing in the Carl Hein episode, they need to be more original if they're a full-time performer than if they're just a fan of it, right? It's more of a requirement. And it's one of, and my second answer to does the magic community intentionally or unintentionally shame people is I would say they intentionally or unintentionally judge people the way that humans do, right? Like when you're at a magic convention and you're meeting a new person, whether you like it or not, what your brain is trying to do is understand who this person is, how they fit into the boxes of the magicians the types of people you already know. So you can see similarities and, different things like that. That's how our brain works, right? We recognize those familiar patterns. So I would say that, you grow an understanding of someone. I can ask you 10 questions, any person, 10 questions about them and their magic and whatever. And I feel that I would have a relatively okay understanding of who they are, what type of magic they do, what type of performer they are, their goals, different things like that. And which would explain to me who they are about magic. So I think that people judge people just like they judge anybody. And then to answer the question, do we have a way of telling what good magic is that doesn't measure in downloads? I would say there might be a good answer, but one of which I'm not articulate enough to say, but it would probably contain a lot of different aspects, performance that is both blah, 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 blah. But I also believe that there's such a variation of it that I don't think we can explain, say, this is the criteria for good magic. But I think, like I said before, that sometimes followers or dollars or whatever is a tool that we use to understand how even other people perceive someone's magic, like it's just a level of judgment. So in an ideal world, no, everything would be in a box and every magician would be perceived in the moment, but we have more things to perceive somebody with, and those are tools that humans are going to use in their interaction with other people. Does that make sense? I know it's a little bit strange-o, but
no, it makes sense to me. And also I think like I agree, like the idea that it's just what people do, right? Especially when it's in a, say you want to be more successful as a magician and you look at someone who's not even trying to be successful as a magician, that relationship just immediately becomes less valuable to you. Like, because they're just not trying to pursue what it is that you're trying to pursue.
Okay, the next question comes from Timon from Germany. So he says, And I think we had a version of this question before, but he says, thank you for your mail. I agree with you that community is very important. I have one idea for the podcast. I feel like a bit of inspiration and advice from a professional magician would be very good and could help me move forward with magic. What have we been doing? I know it's unlikely to happen, but I dream of, for example, a magician like Hans Klock. I actually recently heard of him. As my mentor. I don't know if that's possible, but I would like to try to ask him or another magician. Okay, so my question for your podcast is how to find a good magician mentor tutor. If you have already somebody on your mind, how to get in contact with him and ask him in a good and convincing way to teach you something, and how to make clear that you aren't just a fan who wants to get to know the secrets of his magic, but that you want to learn how to do good magic on your own and be able to do your own shows. I'd be very pleased if you answered my question in the podcast. Okay, hopefully you'll be pleased. So here is my thought on that. So I know we discussed in the other episode how to get a mentor to work with you, but the first thing to remember is not everybody wants mentees, right? Like not everybody wants to teach. Maybe that guy just performs a lot. So if Hans Klock just performs a lot, then he might not really want to have a student. But I would say be interested in his material, send him emails, contact him, make it easy for him to respond. Don't send him long essays. Try to meet up, go out of your way to meet up with him, do as much as you can for him, promote his stuff, share his stuff, be a good follower and be a good fan and chat with him, and don't be a weird stalkerish creep and just be a cool dude. And then slowly he may want to be your mentor, or maybe he won't.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not really up to you, unfortunately. It would be nice. But just like make yourself known, make your connection, make friends, and make your interests clear,
Love it. Okay, next question from Jacob Brown. He said, hey, sorry, this email is a little late. Don't worry, Jacob, we're hitting it anyways. He said, my question is, what is your favorite magic scripting book? If that's not a thing, then what's your advice on getting followers and magic-related social media? If these questions suck, just let me know and I'll make new ones. Jacob, those questions are fine. So we'll start with the first one. What is your favorite magic scripting book? What do you think, Tyler?
I don't know that I've read a magic scripting book.
I would say, while I haven't read Scripting Magic or Scripting Magic 2, I know that's probably a good resource. The one that I have used a lot is Maximum Entertainment, Ken Weber, as well as Strong Magic by Darwin Ortiz. And here's a secret. Here's the secret to scripting. You can read as many magic books as you want, but script and then go out and test it on a stage. That's where you'll learn it for sure. So go buy 1 or 2 magic scripting books, but don't waste all your money on sitting inside and reading about scripting. Instead, script something and go do it. Any given scripting book should be years worth of material for you to script, because they all seem to be pretty good in the world of magic. So go find one with an author that you like and do that. Next question of his was, if that's not a thing, which it was, but what's your advice on getting followers and magic-related social media? Here's my advice. Post cool stuff every day. There it is. It's been literally just over 1 year since Glenn West started posting daily videos. He recently stopped because he finished his 365. It's been over a year, and he went from 800 followers to 5,000 followers. There it is. Game. Do that. Post hashtags. Post often. That's it. Tyler, any other advice I missed on that?
Not okay. So I'm going to make one sort of other comment about that. Not saying that there's anything bad about Glenn West's videos. The magic that he does is incredible. All of that. But that was a daily thing that he did, where it was like, yes, there was some editing done in terms of putting up graphics and some music and this, that, and the other. But like, it was a quick, he didn't spend thousands of dollars on a camera and editing software and this, that, and the other. And he grew his channel to something, that a lot of people are watching and engaging and love with very, very limited resources. He just put in a little bit of time every day. So it is doable. And everything Jonah said, plus that.
Love it. Next question is from Timothy Qualls, who said, if it's not too late, I would like to change my question. Well, it's too late to change your question because we probably answered it already, but you can add this one. Once I reached the end of Walt's book, he has a list of resources in it. So I guess his was a question about the storytelling with Walt Anthony's Tales of Enchantment. So he said, my new question is this. I have recently taken on a youngster, 11 years old, to help him learn some magic. What are some things I should focus on, and what would be the best resource for him to begin learning? He already knows some by watching YouTube videos for what that's worth, but I would still consider him a new beginner. So here is my immediate advice. It would be look at the things that you've learned and stop him before he makes those mistakes, or help him along the line in the direction that you believe is correct. That's sort of why teachers become teachers, is to help with the things. And that's what you can do as a teacher, is share with your experiences and share the resources that you like. If you don't have resources for him, then I guess do what you're doing right now, which is reach out to the people who you think know who has the right resources for him. I cannot in my right mind recommend any resources because I don't know what he is and what he does and what he's like to learn and how much magic he knows or anything. But if he likes YouTube, tell him to learn from Alex Pandre and Jay Sankey, because those are two real cool magicians on YouTube, and Assad, 52 Cards. That's another cool person. There's some basic advice, but I couldn't possibly recommend advice. I have no idea who he is or what he likes. Tyler, what about you?
Yeah, Jay Sankey was like, we've mentioned it so many times, but that is just like an absurd YouTube channel. Like you want to become a magician, you don't need anything else. You need a deck of cards, Jay Sankey's YouTube channel, and some people to perform for. It's pretty cool. In terms of avenues for him to, learn, he's a young guy. Maybe try to get him doing some sort of kids programs that are performance based. See if his parents are willing to support that. All sorts. Yeah. There's all sorts of different avenues. Like I wish that I spent a little bit less time studying sleight of hand and a little bit more time studying performing when I was younger. I mean, I have all the time in the world to do that now, but I feel like I'm playing catch up. Whereas if I was, in theater programs and theater groups and stuff like that, I would be far, far ahead of the game.
Totally. I love that. And that is our very last question. Is there anything else that you want to say to the world, tell the world, an experience, a thought, a belief, magic you saw? Oh, by the way, Nick Wallace fooled Penn and Teller. That was amazing. And we had a Nick Wallace fooling Penn and Teller watching it live. And it was awesome.
Oh, cool. I'm glad. I still legitimately haven't even seen his performance. So
it was dope.
I'm going to get on that.
Yeah. So that was amazing, and that was cool, and Penn and Teller Fool is still amazing. So there you go, 1, 2, 7 in the books, and we're coming on 150 pretty strong, pretty quick, and pretty fiery. So if you liked this sort of advice, if you like this episode, if you like what we do, send me a message. Tell me particularly what you think. You're like, wow, you had great advice about blah, blah, blah. Or, wow, you actually have literally no idea what you're talking about when you're talking about blah, 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 blah. Or just say hello. Slide into them DMs. Follow us on Instagram. Be friendly. Stay Gucci. Do good magic. And we'll see you guys next Thursday.
Peace.